Welcome back to ZE Coinsel. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern-era coins, the 1982 Jefferson nickel, and in this video we will explore its history, its design, its errors, and why some examples are worth far more than just 5 cents. So stay with me until the end because you might be surprised at how valuable one of these coins can actually be. First, let us set the stage. The Jefferson nickel has been in production since 1938, designed by Felix Schlag, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and this design has been a workhorse of American coinage for decades. By 1982, the Jefferson nickel was already a familiar sight in circulation, featuring President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his Monticello home on the reverse. Now the Philadelphia Mint struck over 373 million Jefferson nickels in 1982, making it one of the higher mintage years, which means that most of these coins are quite common in average circulated condition. If you find one in your pocket change, it is still only worth its face value of 5 cents. But here is where things get interesting. The condition of a coin and whether it shows any errors or unique characteristics can make all the difference for collectors when it comes to the 1982 nickel. High-grade examples, especially those graded mint state 65 and above by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, can bring in much higher premiums, while a circulated example might only be worth 5 cents or maybe 10 to 15 cents if it is lightly circulated. A pristine mint state coin can be worth several dollars, sometimes even pushing $20 for a high-grade example. Now let us talk about the varieties and errors, because this is where the real money comes in. The 1982 nickel has been known to show striking issues such as die cracks, die clashes, and full steps on Monticello. Collectors pay particular attention to what are called full steps nickels. This refers to the staircase detail on Monticello's reverse. If the coin shows all the steps clearly without wear or weakness, it is much more desirable, and these can easily sell for $50, $100 or more in high mint state grades, depending on demand and population reports. Another factor to keep in mind is that 1982 was a transitional year in American coinage. The mint was experimenting with composition changes for other denominations like the cent, which shifted to a copper-plated zinc planchet in 1982, while the nickel did not change its composition in that year. It still carries historical significance as part of a broader period of change in the U.S. mint system. Collectors value 1982 nickels as part of complete date and mintmark sets, especially when the coin is preserved in gem condition. If you happen to find a proof-like strike or a coin that displays unusually sharp details, those are worth holding on to. Sometimes third-party graders will designate these coins with special labels that make them stand out and increase their market value even more. So what about today's current market value for the 1982 nickel? As of now, in circulated grades it remains face value. In mint state grades you are looking at anywhere from $2 up to $20 depending on quality, and if the coin shows full steps then the price jumps dramatically, with some examples reaching into the low hundreds. And if you have a certified MS-67 full steps nickel, you are sitting on a coin that could bring in several $100s at auction. Auction records have shown that collectors are more than willing to pay top dollar for condition rarities, and when it comes to Jefferson nickels, the full steps designation is the holy grail. One record example sold for well over $1,000, making it clear that while most 1982 nickels are common pocket change, a tiny fraction are true treasures. So what should you do if you come across one? First, check the condition. Look closely at Monticello and see if the steps are complete, then check for any die cracks, clashes, or unusual features. And finally, if you think you have a gem, consider sending it in for grading, because that certification can make all the difference when it comes time to sell. We are going to talk about the 1991 Jefferson nickel from the Philadelphia Mint, the P Mint mark, and why this ordinary-looking 5-cent coin might be worth more than just face value. This is one of those coins that people often overlook because it is still modern and common, but there are some details and facts that can make it very collectible and in some cases surprisingly valuable. The Jefferson nickel has been a mainstay of American pocket change since 1938 when it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, it features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his famous Monticello home on the reverse, and it has gone through many small modifications over the years, but the overall design remained very familiar to collectors. By the year 1991, the Mint was still striking these nickels in huge numbers out of a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. In 1991, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 621 million Jefferson nickels. So at first glance this seems like a coin with no rarity at all. Most circulated examples will only be worth 5 cents in change because there are so many. However, the story changes once you start to look at condition, quality and error varieties. When we talk about coin value, condition is everything. Collectors pay strong premiums for coins that survive in mint state condition. That means coins with no wear, sharp detail and clean luster straight from the mint to a collection rather than into circulation. A 1991 P. Jefferson nickel in circulated grades like very fine or extremely fine is still basically worth face value, but in higher mint state grades things get much more interesting. In mint state 65, which is considered gem condition, a 1991 P nickel might bring just a few dollars because they are not incredibly scarce, but once you get into the top population grades like mint state 67 with full steps on Monticello, the value jumps dramatically. Full steps refers to the horizontal lines on the steps of Monticello on the reverse design. If all the steps are fully struck and clear, that is a sign of an exceptionally well-made coin from the dies, and collectors chase these designations at grading services. For a 1991 P nickel with full steps in mint state 66, you might see values around $50 to $100 in auctions. In mint state 67 with full steps, this coin has sold for several $100s, and in the rarest condition where the strike is almost perfect, prices have crossed well into the $1,000 range at major auctions. This is why searching through high-quality examples is worth the effort for collectors and resellers. Another factor is mint errors. Sometimes mistakes happen at the mint and coins are struck off-center, have double dies, clipped planchets or other unusual features. These error nickels from 1991 can sell for much more than face value depending on the type and severity of the error. For example, an off-center strike that still shows the date and mint mark can bring anywhere from $25 to $100, while dramatic errors could be several hundred. So what about the current market value as of today? The general 1991 P. Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is worth only face value 5 cents. A nice uncirculated piece can sell for $1 or $2. Certified mint state examples with attractive luster and clean surfaces can bring $10 to $20. Coins with full steps certified by grading services like PCGS or NGC carry the most premium values, and the very top population coins with full steps in MS67 and above can command hundreds or even thousands from advanced collectors. In summary, the 1991 P. Jefferson nickel is not a rare coin in general, but condition rarity makes all the difference. It is a reminder that even coins produced in the hundreds of millions can have hidden treasures if you know what to look for. So always check your change and do not dismiss the nickels in your pocket. You might just find one of these gems that could be worth a lot more than 5 cents. We are diving into the history, the value and the current market worth of the 1999 P. Jefferson nickel 5-cent coin. This is one of the modern era coins that has gained attention among collectors and coin enthusiasts, not only because of its place in American coinage history but also because certain examples can be worth a lot more than their face value. First, let's start with a little history. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel that had been in circulation since 1913. The design was created by sculptor Felix Schlag, who won a competition to design the new coin. The obverse or front of the coin features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, while the reverse shows his famous home Monticello, located in Virginia. Over the decades, the Jefferson nickel has gone through some design changes, but the 1999 version still carried Schlag's classic design, which was used until 2003. The 1999 nickel produced at the Philadelphia Mint can be identified by the small letter P mint mark located to the right of Monticello on the reverse side. During that year the Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion Jefferson nickels, so the majority of 1999 P nickels are common in circulation and most examples are only worth their face value of 5 cents. However, condition, rarity and errors can change that dramatically when talking about coin value. Collectors look at condition first. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. With mint state grades ranging from MS-60 to MS-70. Coins that come directly from rolls or mint sets and show no wear at all are the most desirable for collectors. A 1999 P Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is typically worth only face value 5 cents, but in higher grades, especially mint state 65 and above, the value can jump to a couple of dollars per coin. Now let's talk about varieties and errors, because that is where the real money can be found. There are some examples of 1999 P nickels with striking errors such as double die obverse or reverse off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or even improperly annealed planchets, which result in dramatic toning error. Nickels of this type can be worth anywhere from $10 to several $100s depending on the rarity and condition. One of the more desirable finds would be a full steps variety on the reverse of the coin. Full steps refers to the steps of Monticello being fully struck and showing all the lines without breaks or weakness in detail. This is difficult to find on many Jefferson nickels, including the 1999 P, because the strike quality at the time was often weak. Full steps examples are much scarcer and can be valued at $50 or more in high mint state grades, and if the coin is graded MS-67 full steps by a third-party grading company like PCGS or NGC, it could be worth several $100s. As of the current market, the demand for high-quality Jefferson nickels is steadily growing, with collectors who specialize in modern coinage. Auction records show that premium 1999 P nickels with full steps and very high grades can sell for over $1,000, while ordinary mint state examples without full steps may bring in $2 to $10 each. Graded coins in MS-66 or higher are often where the significant jump in value occurs, because they are much harder to find with a flawless strike and no distracting marks. It is important to note that the overall mintage was extremely high in 1999, so most coins will not carry extra value, but for collectors the hunt is always about condition, rarity and errors. If you come across a roll of nickels or even just a handful from circulation, it is worth taking the time to examine the steps of Monticello, the sharpness of Jefferson's portrait, and whether there are any doubling or unusual striking features. To sum it up, the 1999 P Jefferson nickel is common in circulation and in most cases it is worth only its face value of 5 cents. However, high-grade mint state coins, full steps varieties and dramatic mint errors can make these coins worth anywhere from a few dollars to several hundred, and in rare cases over $1,000. This is why collectors always stress the importance of checking your change. You never know when a valuable coin might be hiding in your pocket. We are diving deep into the world of coin collecting, and we are going to talk about a modern yet very interesting piece, the 2002 Jefferson 5-cent nickel coin. Now, a lot of people look at nickels from the early 2000s and think these are just pocket change coins that cannot possibly be worth more than face value, but as we will explore today, the 2002 Jefferson nickel actually has a fascinating history, and in certain conditions it can be worth a lot of money. So let us break this all down, from history to production numbers to collector demand and finally the current market value. First, let us start with the history of the Jefferson nickel itself. The series was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel which had run its course. The United States Mint decided to honor President Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and also the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. The obverse or front of the coin features a portrait of Jefferson designed by Felix Schlag, while the reverse originally displayed Jefferson's famous home Monticello in Virginia. The design ran for decades with only minor changes here and there, and in 2002 we were still looking at that original classic style before the Westward Journey nickel series that came a couple years later. In terms of mintage and production numbers, 2002 nickels were struck at two main mints, Philadelphia and Denver. There were also proof strikes made in San Francisco intended for collectors. The Philadelphia Mint with its P Mint mark produced hundreds of millions of coins in circulation, while the Denver Mint with its D mark also struck a very high number. This means that in average circulated condition the 2002 Jefferson nickel is extremely common and still found easily in pocket change. However, the proof version struck in San Francisco, especially in silver proof sets, are more scarce and intended for collectors. These proof coins carry a mirror-like finish and are often the ones that hold more collector value today. Now let us talk about condition. This is where the value of the 2002 nickel can rise dramatically. Coin collectors follow a grading scale from about good all the way up to mint state, with the highest quality known as mint state 70 or MS70. The higher the grade, the sharper the detail and the better the eye appeal. Circulated nickels from 2002 that have seen heavy use are generally only worth face value, but when you come across a coin that is uncirculated and has been preserved in mint state condition, it can be worth much more. For example, a 2002 Jefferson nickel graded MS66 or MS67 by professional grading services can bring in several dollars compared to just 5 cents, and rare examples at MS68 can go for even higher prices because they are much more difficult to find in such pristine quality. Another important factor is errors and varieties, and this is where some collectors get very excited. Error coins occur when something unusual happens during the minting process and the coin ends up looking different from normal. Some possible errors on 2002 nickels include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, die cracks that leave raised lines across the coin, double die obverse or reverse which creates a doubling effect in the lettering or design, and clipped planchets where part of the coin is cut off before striking. These types of errors can sometimes fetch anywhere from a few dollars to over $100 depending on how dramatic and rare the error is. So if you have a 2002 nickel that looks strange, do not dismiss it because it could be worth a premium. When it comes to proof coins, the 2002 San Francisco proof nickels, especially those in deep cameo condition, can sell for several dollars to collectors. A standard proof might bring $2 to $5, while silver proof versions included in special sets can go for even more depending on demand and the quality of the strike. Collectors look for deep mirror-like fields and frosted details which make the coin really pop, and those features increase the desirability. So what is the current market value today? As of now, most circulated 2002 Jefferson nickels are only worth face value, which means 5 cents. You will find these in your pocket change and in jars at home. However, uncirculated examples in higher mint state grades can range from $1 to $10 depending on grade, and errors can command premiums of $20, $50 or even over $100. Proof coins are often valued at $2 to $10, with silver proofs fetching higher prices in the collector marketplace. So while most 2002 nickels are not rare, the right condition and the right error or proof strike can make them much more valuable than you would expect. The takeaway is simple: always check your change carefully. Coin collecting is not just about ancient coins or rare gold pieces. Sometimes even a modern nickel from 2002 can hold surprises and can be worth much more than 5 cents. Whether you are a beginner or a seasoned collector, understanding the history, the mintages, and the market value of coins like the 2002 Jefferson nickel can help you build a smarter and more valuable collection. We are diving deep into the story of the 2011 Jefferson 5-cent nickel coin, its background, its place in American coinage history, and most importantly its current value and what makes certain examples worth far more than face value. The Jefferson nickel has been a mainstay of United States currency since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel and featuring the third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse, also known as the front of the coin, while the reverse design famously highlights his Virginia estate Monticello. Over the decades there have been some changes to the artwork, but the 5-cent nickel has remained an everyday workhorse in commerce while also capturing the attention of coin collectors around the world. Now when we talk about the year 2011 specifically, this was part of the modern nickel series following the westward journey designs that ran between 2004 and 2005. The 2011 nickel shows a forward-facing portrait of Jefferson with the word Liberty inscribed in his own handwriting style and the familiar Monticello building on the back. The Denver Mint facility struck hundreds of millions of these coins with the D mint mark located to the right of Jefferson's portrait. At first glance, the 2011 D Jefferson nickel may not seem rare at all because the mintage numbers were enormous and the coin is relatively recent. However, value in the coin collecting world is not only about rarity in terms of how many were made, but also about condition, quality, special errors or varieties, and the grade given by professional coin grading services. Most circulated examples of the 2011 D nickel are worth only face value, that is 5 cents, but uncirculated coins, particularly those pulled directly from mint rolls or mint sets, can carry a small premium. A bright uncirculated coin with strong luster and no noticeable scratches might fetch anywhere from 25 cents to $1 depending on demand. Where things get more interesting is in the high-grade certified Examples: if you submit a 2011 D Jefferson nickel to a grading service like PCGS or NGC and it comes back as mint state 66, mint state 67 or even higher, the value can rise significantly. For instance, in MS67 these coins have sold at auction for around $20 to $40 in the rare cases where they grade MS67 plus or MS68 prices can climb into the hundreds of dollars because so few coins from such a large mintage survive in near flawless condition. Collectors also search for error nickels from this year. Mint errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, double dies or improper planchet strikes can make a 2011 D Jefferson nickel worth far more than face value. Some dramatic error coins have been known to sell for over $100, especially if they are visually striking and certified by a grading service. So what about the current market value as of today? The baseline remains that most 2011 D nickels are only worth 5 cents in your pocket change, but if you come across a fresh uncirculated roll, you might expect about $10 to $15 for the full roll depending on the market. For a single coin in mint state 66, expect around $10 to $15. In mint state 67 the price jumps closer to $40 to $60. Exceptional specimens with high eye appeal can bring even more at auction. To sum it all up, the 2011 D Jefferson nickel is a modern coin with a very high mintage. So common examples are still just worth face value. However, dedicated collectors chase the top graded examples and error varieties which can command impressive premiums in today's market. If you have one in change, check its condition, look for sharp details, strong luster and any signs of mint errors, because even a small difference can mean the difference between 5 cents and $50 or more. We are going to take a deep dive into one of the most common looking but surprisingly fascinating coins in modern American change, the 2015 D Jefferson 5-cent nickel. At first glance it may just seem like pocket change worth only 5 cents, but as we will see, this coin carries a story of history, design, mintage and collector value that makes it much more interesting than most people realize. Let us start with the background of the Jefferson nickel itself. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and it was designed by Felix Schlag. His design featured a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse with Monticello Jefferson's famous Virginia home on the reverse. This design remained in use with some small modifications for decades and became one of the longest-running coin designs in United States history. By the early 2000s, the mint decided to update the look of the nickel, and during the Westward Journey series new designs were used temporarily, but in 2006 a new modernized portrait of Jefferson was introduced by sculptor Jamie Franke. This is the design we still see today, with a forward-facing image of Jefferson, giving the coin a more lifelike and updated appearance. Now let us focus specifically on the 2015 D nickel. The D of course stands for Denver, which is one of the primary mints producing coins for circulation in the United States. In 2015 the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these nickels, which means the majority of them are still very common and can easily be found in pocket change or bank rolls. However, not all nickels are equal in value. Even among modern dates, certain coins with exceptional qualities or errors can be worth far more than their face value. For most circulated examples of the 2015 D nickel, the value is of course only 5 cents. However, when you move into higher grade uncirculated coins, the picture changes dramatically. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect flawless coin known as mint state or proof-like, while most nickels will grade somewhere in the lower circulated range. Those few that have survived in pristine condition can be certified by grading companies and sell for far more. A 2015 D Jefferson nickel in mint state 65 might bring in around $1 or $2 in today's collector market. A mint state 66 could sell for $3 to $5, while a high-end example graded at mint state 67 can sometimes fetch $10 or even more. And here is where it gets really exciting. If you have a coin graded at mint state 68, which is extremely rare for modern nickels, the value can skyrocket into the hundreds of dollars depending on demand and the coin market at the time. But condition is not the only factor that can make this coin valuable. Errors and varieties are another major source of collector interest. Coin errors occur during the minting process and can include things like double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet flaws, or misaligned dies. Some of these errors are small and may only add $1 or $2 in value, while others are dramatic and can turn an ordinary 5-cent piece into a coin worth hundreds. In fact, collectors are always searching their change for these types of rare finds, so it is worth checking your 2015 D nickel closely under magnification to see if anything unusual is going on with the details. Let us not forget proof and Special strike versions. While the Denver Mint produces business strike coins for everyday circulation, the San Francisco Mint creates special proof coins for collectors. In 2015, proof nickels were struck with mirrored fields and frosted devices, giving them a beautiful cameo appearance. Although these were sold directly to collectors, they still hold value today, typically trading for around $3 to $10 depending on condition and packaging. So where does that leave us today in terms of current market value? Well, as of now in 2025, the majority of circulated 2015 D nickels are still worth only their face value of 5 cents, but certified high-grade examples continue to bring premiums, and coins with errors are in steady demand on auction sites and through coin dealers. In fact, it is not unusual to see top-grade mint state 67 or 68 coins being listed and sold at impressive prices to dedicated collectors. The market for modern coinage has been growing over the last decade. And even though huge mintages exist, serious collectors will pay a premium for the very best coins. When thinking about the Jefferson nickel, it is also important to appreciate its place in American history. The coin has been in circulation for over 80 years and has gone through only a handful of design changes. It represents one of the founding fathers, the author of the Declaration of Independence and the third president of the United States. In many ways, it is not just a small piece of metal but a miniature monument carried in the pockets of millions of Americans every day. To sum it all up, the 2015 D Jefferson 5-cent nickel may look ordinary, but its story is far from boring. In average condition, it is worth 5 cents, but in uncirculated grades it can bring in a few dollars, and in rare top grades or with unusual mint errors it can be worth a significant amount of money, sometimes even hundreds of dollars. For collectors of modern coins, this nickel is a must-have for completing a date and mint set, and for everyday people it is a reminder that even the change in your pocket can hold a hidden treasure. We are diving deep into one of the most interesting modern coins in circulation, the 2020 P Jefferson nickel, also known as the 5-cent coin. This is not just any everyday nickel, because collectors and everyday people alike are finding that even coins as recent as 2020 can carry a surprising amount of history, unique characteristics, and in some cases significant value. So stay tuned, because we are going to cover the origin of the Jefferson nickel design, why the 2020 Philadelphia minted coin is worth paying attention to, what errors and varieties can make it worth a lot of money, and what the current market value is if you are looking to buy, sell, or simply learn more. The Jefferson nickel first appeared in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. It features President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse with his Monticello home on the reverse. The design has gone through some minor adjustments over the decades, but the essential look has remained, giving us a sense of continuity in American coinage. The P Mint mark designates that this coin was struck in Philadelphia, one of the main mints of the United States Mint. In 2020, Philadelphia produced millions of nickels, but even with a high mintage, some coins stand out due to condition, rarity, and error features. The year 2020 itself was unusual in history, with the global pandemic and limited coin circulation, which means that even coins minted that year can carry a bit of historical significance. Collectors often like to hold on to pieces minted during major world events because they serve as time capsules of that era. When it comes to the 2020 P Jefferson nickel, the majority are worth their face value of 5 cents, but under the right conditions a coin can become much more valuable. What makes a 2020 P nickel potentially worth a lot of money? The first factor is condition. Coins graded in mint state condition, especially those that achieve high grades like MS60 6 or higher from professional grading services, can bring in premium prices. A flawless strike with sharp details and luster is far more desirable to collectors than a circulated example. Even though millions were made, perfect specimens are hard to find, which drives the value up. The second factor is error. Coins and varieties. Coin collectors love mistakes because they make coins unique. Examples of the 2020 P Jefferson nickel that have off-center strikes, die cracks, extra metal known as cuds, double die obverse or reverse images, or missing elements can bring significant premiums. Instead of being worth just a nickel, some of these can sell for $10, $50, even $100 or more depending on rarity and demand. Let's not forget about proof-like or special strike nickels that sometimes appear. Although the Philadelphia Mint does not typically produce special collector issues like San Francisco does, a well-struck coin with mirrored surfaces can command attention in the marketplace. Another factor to consider is the overall demand for full steps on the Monticello. Reverse collectors value nickels that show all of the architectural steps clearly defined. Coins with full steps can dramatically increase in value, sometimes bringing in prices far higher than their ordinary counterparts. Now let's talk about actual market prices as of today. Common circulated 2020p nickels generally remain at face value. They will buy you 5 cents worth of goods. However, if you happen to have one in uncirculated mint state condition, you could see prices ranging from about $2 to $5 depending on the grade. If you find one in MS66 or MS67 condition, the value could go up to $20, $50, or in some cases over $100, especially if it has full steps. Designation errors can be even more lucrative. For instance, a strong double die or a dramatic off-center strike could